This is a research on the road event that we're having today. I'm super excited. We get to share with you guys some incredible information about some amazing animals, some that are still alive and some that were alive. Right, Michael? All right, cool. So today I'm going to actually talk a little bit about an endangered species, and we're going to get into a little bit of detail on what is endangered, how do we classify something that's endangered, and something super cool like sexual dimorphism, as well as an amazing tool that we as biologists use every single day, which is the IUCN Red List. So let's get started. I'll introduce the animals that I'm talking to you guys about today. I showed these guys actually not too long ago, but I'm gonna show them again because they're just absolutely amazing and very, very aggressive, as you can see. And he's going to like break his own neck. This guy is insane. Okay, relax. So right here I have a pair of what are called Abronia graminia. This one who's got his mouth open is actually the male, and then that one that just bit me just now is the female. So they're amazing animals. These guys are arboreal species. They like to climb up trees. Oh, I probably should go through the common name, right? So Abronia graminia are also known as the green Mexican alligator lizard. So they almost look like alligators. They obviously are like a greenish to like a bluish color. They're absolutely beautiful. They have a prehensile tail that they're able to actually like hold on with and use as like a secondary arm. Really amazing animals, and they always try to commit suicide by jumping down to the ground. They bite me a lot due to the fact that they're scared, they're nervous. I'm a big giant animal. But now let's get into something really cool, which is the part where these guys are endangered. It's actually not very cool, which means that their populations are actually decreasing. And it's possible that these guys can one day become extinct. Now, that would mean that they no longer exist. They're not in the wild. They won't be in captivity. They're gone for the rest of for forever, and we don't want that to happen. Now, how did these guys become endangered? As far as what IUCN Red List has to say, based on their research, is habitat loss. So, due to deforestation for agricultural use, so like farmlands for either cows or whatever it might be. This is the reason why these guys are decreasing in population. Adults are getting harder and harder to find in the wild. Populations have now been separated. So that means there's like a group of them living in one specific pocket. And then there's a whole another group living in another pocket where once they actually used to be connected because of the forest. But now because someone came through and destroyed that forest, they no longer can reach each other. And a lot of interesting things happen when you do this, when you split populations. You can have issues with genetics due to the fact that now there's not, a lot of genetic diversity due to the fact that populations aren't able to continue to mix and mate with each other. So that's one big issue. But deforestation is definitely going to be the real cost for these guys. The other issue that they're having is actually the pet trade. We have a lot of poachers that are coming in and are actually taking adults and young ones out of the wild, which is decreasing their populations even more, making it harder for them to continue to breed and continue to grow in population size. So there's a lot of factors that are causing these guys to decline. But hopefully with your help and everybody else's help, we can actually help and protect these forests and protect these populations that are there. Also, a lot of times is what zoos will do is they will capture a bunch of wild animals and take them back into captivity and breed them in captivity so that they can actually release a bunch of young ones back into the wild again. Get some new genetics out there to help with all the genetics that are going around, keep things, diverse and different, which will help them to survive any illnesses or anything that randomly could happen. As Dr. Dunbar's favorite word, stochastic event. I love that word. Just means an event that was not planned, like coronavirus. Nobody planned for this event, but it happened. But hey, we adapted and we were able to overcome it, as you guys can tell. Same thing with these guys. Now, another really cool thing I wanted to talk about was sexual dimorphism. Now, I'm going to show you guys the head. No. Ow. Oh, gosh. I'm going to show you guys the head of both the male and the female. And you're going to see a huge difference in size. And once I can get them to, and here we have the head of the female. And I hope you guys can get a good look. You can actually see there's a huge difference in the size of these two. I don't want them to bite each other, so I'm not going to put them too close, but I'll get them close enough for you guys to see. And a lot of times this happens in nature. We also have a really big difference in color. As you can see, the male is a lot prettier, brighter in terms of color for that green, while the female is a lot duller. So in the wild, and in nature, we actually have what's called sexual dimorphism. You can really see this if I tell you about like a peacock. As you see, the males are really pretty and vibrant and beautiful in color, while the females are really dull and ugly, in all honesty. And the reason why we have this is, one, sometimes males need to have bigger heads or pretty colors in order to attract females or be able to subdue them in order to mate with them, which is what the Abronia graminia has. His big old head is used to actually bite and hold down on the female during mating in order for her not to run away from him. Yeah. While in other species, males are really pretty, and that's a way that they allow for females to pick a mate. If they're really pretty, muscular, and really strong and fit, the females are like, oh, you know, he's a pretty good looking guy. I think I'll hang out with him instead of this guy who's all beat up and skinny and scrawny, and those tail feathers don't look good. So another incredible adaptation that a lot of these species have and that they utilize in order to overcome challenges and also to help pick mates and also to just be really cool and unique. But yeah, Abronia graminia, endangered species. They you can see sexual dimorphism in these guys. They're pretty mean. They like to bite. Doesn't hurt though. And they're just beautiful creatures that I would love to see off of the endangered species list. That would be amazing if their populations can come back and we can get their forests back up and running. If you're ever curious about whether or not a species, I don't want you to bite each other, okay, is endangered or protected or is at risk for population decrease, you guys can definitely Google IUCN Red List. They have tons of information on tons of animals that will tell you whether or not they're endangered, where they're from, what's causing population decline, what you can do to help. Incredible tool. Highly recommend you guys take a look at it. But thank you guys so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed it. Abronia graminia, y'all take care.
What would you suggest in terms of how best to protect them? Like what can people do to work towards that?
Okay, so there's a lot of different things people can do. Obviously, donating to different groups that are working to protect these individuals or that are putting in time to do research and build information, get information on these animals in order to find out what is the best way to go about protecting these animals. That's obviously one way. But another way is just by how do I want to say? It's kind of like what I do. What I do as Wildman Dan is I like to take animals that are misunderstood or that people are usually afraid of, and I like to bring them to you and give you information so that you're no longer scared of them, but instead you're actually curious about the animal and telling others about it and making it known to everybody else. That's a huge help, because as a whole entire group, if we're all putting in effort and if we all care about that animal, a lot more work will be done for that species in order to protect them and help their populations come back. They're awesome little creatures, super quick. They jump really fast. They actually change colors. So that green little guy, once nighttime rolls around, they'll actually turn like a brown to almost black. They have this super cool thing on the bottom of their neck. It's called a dewlap. There's actually, I believe, a little bone that pulls this excess skin, and it's like super colorful and vibrant. You can almost see it actually right there. If there was another anole around and it was like two males, you would definitely see that dewlap come out, and then they start doing push-ups, trying to feel each other out, trying to say, oh, this is my territory, this is my plant, you need to get out of here. So, but they're awesome. I love catching those little guys. They're too much fun to catch.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? Anything else, Emily?
Uh,
Michael?
That's all for me. Michael, I think it might be too late for saving your animal, but want to give us your presentation?
Now.
Talking
Oh,
like
yeah. Yeah, I can hear you better now.
Okay. All right. I'll just talk this way and not look at the camera. So,
Yeah, I saw one headline that was calling it half duck, half crocodile, I think. So
yeah. So Spinosaurus is shaping up to be a very bizarre animal. Aquatic or not, it was a weird theropod. It was not the typical theropod build.
that's awesome.
So I actually know a friend of mine. She is not on the new Spinosaurus. Like even the 2014 year with short legs. Like they ruined my favorite dinosaur. I'm like, but look how weird it is. Isn't
Yeah.
that amazing?
Well, all right. Well, thank you. My research is not that recent. I mean, it depends how you characterize recent in the scientific community. But so they've known about it for about 20 years and have been studying it more extensively for about 10. But what got me on track of it was we were talking about animal diseases and viruses the other day. And so this one's not a virus, but Lyme disease is a huge issue. And Lyme disease is particularly prevalent on the East Coast of the United States, in people, that is. So you'll find Lyme infections, hospital records, primarily on the East Coast. And so there was always a question of why on the West Coast, out here in California, Oregon, Washington, we don't get nearly as many cases of Lyme disease. And that's despite the fact that we have ticks everywhere. And not only that, the species of tick that is most common in California is known to be the most common one, the most likely to bite humans. So ticks have all kinds of hosts that they prefer, deer or mice or lizards is what I'm going to talk about, because nymphs are young ticks. So when they hatch, they're nymphs before they become full adults, but they still bite onto things and they still engorge themselves as parasites of whatever host that they're relying on. And so it's come to be known in the past decade, primarily, plus or minus, that alligator lizards and our most common lizard on the West Coast, the western fence lizard, are actually, it's called refractory hosts for the Lyme bacteria. So what happens is the nymphs prefer to bite onto lizards. They like lizards as their hosts, and it's mildly harmful for lizards, of course, because any kind of parasite is kind of a trade-off. It's taking resources from the lizards, but it's helpful for humans or other hosts that the ticks might then move on to, because Lyme disease is carried by ticks. It doesn't affect ticks, but they can transfer it from one host to the next. And the weird thing about Lyme disease and these lizards is that any nymph that bites and latches onto these lizards no longer carries Lyme disease. It no longer is transmissible, even if if the nymph is carrying Lyme disease, latches onto a lizard, and then leaves and moves on to another host, it won't carry that Lyme disease with it. And so they're finding that these lizards are extremely helpful for the human population, and the lack of cases of Lyme disease on the West Coast and it's all thanks to our lizard friends. And so it's I feel like it's not as common knowledge as it should be. I think we should give a little more respect to our local lizards that pretty much running amok. The thing about western fence lizards is that they're okay even in developed areas. So if you're seeing lizards around in cities on the sides of buildings and stuff, there's a very good chance that it's a western fence lizard if you're in California. And second most common, I would say, in the city areas is the alligator lizard. So both of those deserve a bit of kudos and a bit of thanks. So that's what I wanted to discuss. Any question, comments, anything, Daniel, Michael?
No questions for me, but that's really interesting research for sure.
All right. Well,
I've got nothing either. Emily, you're too smart.